Hi there, my name is Jignesh and I am from Canopus. So in previous tutorial we had a look at Flutter basics and widgets, and we also implemented this onboarding screen. Today we'll go ahead and we'll implement this authentication screen. For that we'll also learn required Flutter concepts that will include routing and I think using some external libraries, and yeah, we'll also use this Firebase authentication library. We'll implement this phone authentication using that library. So we'll also have a look at that. So yeah, without wasting time, let's get started. So here's the state of our current app, where we have pretty much this screen done, but like when we click on this, nothing really happens. And if we go here, then the way we'll implement is that when user clicks on this button, then we want to show them this screen, and on this screen they can select country and their enter their mobile number, and yeah, at that point we'll send them OTP, and here we'll verify it, and when they click on verify, if it succeeds, then we'll show them home screen, and if it fails, then we'll show them error. So yeah, this is the flow we'll implement, and yeah, let's get started. So for that, let's first design this empty screen that we want to implement. Let's call it Auth phone screen, and just it will have just empty, or I would say just plain text saying phone screen, and we'll also implement that other screen, Auth OTP screen. And similarly, there also will keep just text and nothing else. Okay, and yeah, so this is fine. Now somehow what we want to do is when user clicks on the button, we want to route from this screen to this screen, and in Flutter that's possible using many ways, but today we'll go with one of the most popular option, and the one that Flutter recommends, and that is the use of Gorouter. That allows us to manage state of the application, where we can have multiple states. Like when we click on this button, like this screen is not gone, it's in the stack. So when you click on, even though this screen is shown, when you click on this button, it will again like it will pop back the screen, and then yeah, it will pop the screen and it will show the screen again. So this will stay in stack, and that kind of behavior is managed by the routers. So in Flutter, we'll use this Gorouter, which is a very popular library, and yeah, so let's first add the dependency. I think we have already seen how we can add dependency. We can just go to installing tab and copy this dependency line, or we can also do that with terminal command, whichever one, like whatever you prefer. But yeah, if you are adding it with copy paste, then yeah, go to pubspec.yaml file and yeah, add the dependency here. I have already it there, and yeah, call pubget, and yeah, now you will have the dependency. So now we have the dependency, and somehow we want to do the navigation. So let's see what the steps are. If we go to the documentation, and the first thing that we see here is that we need to define a router. So router will be the entity that will manage this all navigation thing, which screen to show, when to push a screen, when to pop a screen, and those kind of operations. So yeah, first let's add this code. We'll define it here. Okay, we have this router now, and if you see Gorouter constructor, then you'll see the first parameter it accepts is that routes, and that is the main parameter where we can provide the list of the screens that our app have. Like suppose our app has 10 screen or maybe 20 or 50, we can provide them all here. And then what we want to do is we want to map a URL with screen. So we are saying, when there's nothing, like by default slash is empty, and at that point suppose we say that we want to show this onboarding screen. And yeah, so we can have multiple routes here. It's an array, so I can have 10, 20, whatever I want, but for now I'll just add 3 because we have 3 screen: the onboarding screen, and phone auth screen, and this OTP auth screen. So, and onboarding screen will currently keep it as a home screen. Ideally what we want to do is we'll set this we'll set this screen as a home screen, but for now we'll just set this onboarding screen as a home screen. So ideally in any app what happens is like this kind of onboarding operation is shown only once. So suppose you install the app and you just open it first time, then you will see this kind of things where it asks you for onboarding and login kind of things. But once that is done, then you'll be mostly redirected to home screen. So that we'll handle later. For now, we'll just set this as a home screen, and then we will add these screens as additional path. So we have slash, that is onboarding screen. Another screen we want to add is let's call it auth phone, and here we'll change that, and here we'll have auth OTP, and yeah, here it's auth. So we have our router defined now, and it looks complete. But currently if you see, then it's not in any way connected to our app, right? It's just a separate instance or object that we have defined, and we are not really making any use of that. So let's see what the doc say, like how we can use that. And if you see the doc, then you'll see this inside the app. We currently have this material app where we manually provide home screen, but what they are saying is like this material app has another constructor called material app.router. You can use that and provide the router config, and that's it. After that, the app is not really responsible for what should be shown as a home screen, but instead of that, router will take that responsibility. So very simple thing. Let's do that. The router, and yeah, we'll provide this router config, and yeah. Now if we run the app, then you'll see that it's fine. But when we click on this button, it actually works. Sorry, I had some leftover code here, but if you see here, then this button is not working, right? It earlier worked because I had some code, but I have removed that now. So if you see, then we need to do something so that when this button is clicked, and at that point we want to show a new screen. So for that we'll need to take help of router, right? Because that's the entity that is responsible for this kind of thing. So let's see how we can do that. If we see the documentation and go to navigation, then they have this documentation where they say go directly to a destination. That's the thing we want. And what they're doing here is like in text button on press function, they are just calling context.go, and inside that they are providing the path where we want to redirect the user. So the same thing we can do here, context.go, and here we'll provide auth font, and let's see if it works. So yeah, this is working fine, but you'll see here that two things. One is that the back gesture is not working, right? Because we have used this go, and that is kind of, I think, replacing this tag, right? So let's see if they have something else. If you scroll down, then there are some other operations as well in Gorouter. I'm not sure if they have mentioned it here, but Gorouter has another option called push, and so Go and push has kind of similar functionality but slightly different. Go will push a new screen, I mean it will add a new screen, but it will also replace existing screen if it's at the same level. So these are all at the same level. What I mean by that is, routes can also have subroutes. So as a you can provide an array here saying that, like this auth font is basically subroutes of this, and if we run that, then let's try to do that, and you will see here that now we have this screen in the stack even though new screen is pushed. So that's the behavior of Go. If the screen we are pushing is part of that screen, I mean subroute of the screen, then the previous screen is not popped, it will stay as it is. But if it's at the same level, like we change to previous behavior, then it will replace that screen. So when I click here, then you will see that it does not have home screen or onboarding screen as in the stack. So another method we have is push. So if you go here and check the methods here, then yeah, we have this push method, and that is the same, but the only difference is that push will always push, I mean it will always add new screen, it will never pop previous screen. So let's run that, and you'll see that behavior where it adds new screen. So most of the time you'll be using this push method, and rarely, depending on your use case, sometimes you will need to use go method, where you are deep inside the hierarchy, and at the end of some operation you want to pop all the screens and just want to make something else as a root. At that point you can use go with the new route, and that will take care of that. So yeah, that's the minor difference, but many people get confused here, go versus push. So yeah, here we have auth font screen, and if we move this inside safe area, and if we add a bar here, and we don't want to provide any title because as per our design we don't have any title, then you'll see it's we are kind of getting there. If we go to our design, then yeah, right. So we are done with navigation currently, where when we click on this button, this screen is shown. So the next phase is that we'll have to start designing this screen now, and we are already done with first part, that is this back arrow. As if you see the screen, then we have scaffold, and inside that we have app bar, where we are not providing title here because then it will be shown here, but that's not what we want. We don't have any title, instead we have title and description here, and then we have this field, and we have a button. So if you compare these two screens, then you will see that we have already done this kind of text rendering on the onboarding screen, and the same is true for button. So for now, I'll just copy that code here. Later we'll see, how you can do this with some, components, like you can reuse the style, so you don't have to like copy everything. Like you can just define, like this is my style for header one, this is my style for header two, this is my style for description or body or whatever it is, and then at the runtime on inside the widget you can just use that style instead of creating that style on the fly. So the another advantage you'll have is that you can change, like by changing one line you'll be able to update header one of full app. That's something you'll not be able to do if you duplicate your style everywhere, and that's mostly the behavior designers want. They suddenly say, now this button needs to be like this, and then if you are not reusing style properly, then you'll have to go everywhere and we'll update it manually. And the same is true for colors and all. If you are just copying that everywhere, then yeah, the main issue you'll face is like you'll have too many things to update, and yeah, you'll end up wasting your time, and you might also end up shipping some bugs, because you'll have lots of things to do, and sometimes that can be error prone. So yeah, for now we'll just copy this. Let's go to previous screen, and we have this title and description here, that is inside a column, and that is inside a padding. So if we see here, then here also we want 16 padding, so we'll copy that with padding, and let's create a separate method here that will return this body, and then we can, instead of this just text field, we can use that body method. Okay, and inside the body what we want is, we have this a column, right? 1, 2 and 3 parts. So we will take a column here. If you are new, then I have already explained how column works and row and everything in the first tutorial. So yeah, have a look at that if you are not sure why we are using column here. So now we'll just paste what we had in the first screen, and we'll need to update title here. So let's rename that to enter phone number, and another one we have is, I'll just copy paste it. So yeah, so that is done. And now if we see the screen, then we have semicolon missing here, and yeah, this thing is kind of done, right? One thing you'll notice is that it's a bit different. The one difference I see is that font does not match. So we'll do that later. We'll see how we can configure font and assign them, but for now I think it looks fine. And now we can move on to this next phase, that is like how we can show this picker and also this font text field. But before that, let's add this CTA button. That is something we have already done. So I'll create a separate method for that, and I'll call it CTA. Actually, I can just copy it from here because it's exactly the same, and I'll just need to update the text here, that is get OTP, and on click. We don't want to do anything. Actually, we can do that. What we want is, we can redirect user to auth OTP screen, and here we'll call that method. So button is added in column. So if we see our code, I mean the app, then yeah, the button is there, and if we click here, then we see that OTP screen is shown and previous screen stays as it is. So yeah, everything is working now. Now we have just one piece missing in designing UI, and that is, we'll need to add this country picker and the font text field. Okay, so let's start implementation of this country picker. So for that, I'll use country picker library that is available, country picker Flutter, and we have this one library, country picker. If you go to their GitHub, so yeah, whenever you use any library, make sure you know that library is in a good state. Like you know, it does not have like so many issues open, and yeah, at least it's updated recently in a year or so. So this is something we have. Country picker. Let's see if we have anything else. Then we have this country code picker. That is also a really good library, I think. And yeah, those two are there. And there's another one here. It's by Canopus. So yeah, this Canopus country picker. That is basically the library that is used in the open source version of the Khelo. But we don't have any, you know, yeah, any preference here. We can just go with the one that is recently updated. So, and it's popular. If you see this, then this is published 18 days ago. So let's go ahead and use this one. But the only worry is that it's unverified uploader. Let's go with this one. It has 844 likes, and it's also updated just 36 days ago. So yeah, if we go to install it tab, then we need to add this. So go to your PubSpec file and add this. So that is done, and now what we need to do is let's create a separate method widget underscore country code, and Copilot is providing most of the things, but if you see here, then what we have is padding. Inside that we have a row, and inside that we have text, that is +91, and inside that we have text. We have provided text style here, and we have this down arrow icon. And now let's see how to use this library. Okay, so we need to add this country code picker as a child, and I think that's the behavior we want. And inside that we have a few callbacks and stuff, so we'll see that later. But instead of this, we want this country code picker. You'll need to make a new import here, and if I format the code, then yeah, here on change we are just let's see what we have in constructor here. So like there are lots of configs that you can do. A few important one like this on change is really important, where what we are getting is this value change, and yeah, that is this function where we'll get this country code. And then we have on init. There also we have the same callback. I'm not sure what's the difference between two because I haven't used this library in the past, but this is initial selection where we can provide like what we want to select by default. So yeah, and it's optional. So the fields that we have used are almost similar. We have used on change, and inside that you see we were facing one error here where we were getting this error invalid constant value, and that is shown when, let me make this float on top. So that is shown when we have something that is dynamic inside constant. So Flutter has this special keyword called constant, which you can assign to some objects, and Flutter optimize that path. So what happens is, like, suppose I say this padding is constant, then Flutter assumes like it never really changes. So inside the engine and under the hood, they can do lots of optimizations, just assuming this will never change, so they can focus on some important stuff that needs to be done. So yeah, wherever possible, use constant, but sometimes you'll be forced to remove that because you have something that is dynamic. But here, if I remove here, then Flutter suggests me that this can be constant, because this is also a class of age inset, and that value is always 16, so I can provide constant keyword here, and the warning is gone. And yeah, if I run app now, and if I first add this method in our column, then you'll see that we see this speaker, right? Everything is good, and yeah, now let's see remaining parameters that we didn't see. We have this favorite field. I'm not sure what's use of that. Maybe it shows them as favorite. Oh yeah, they are basically shown at top. And then we have show country only, that is false. So if we make this true, then I think it will not show code. Yeah, that's the behavior. And then show only country when closed. So this is also a flag where like it will change the behavior like what we want here, but I think we want it false because we want to show numbers there. And yeah, so everything is fine here. We can also search country. This seems to be a good library. Yeah, I selected India, and yeah, it's working fine. Okay, so now the next thing we have is, if we go to Figma, then this is inside a background, right? And that's something remaining, so let's do that. For that, there's a container widget that we can use, where we can provide the height, width, background, radius, and all the things. So let's see how we can do that. A Flutter container background, radius, and colors. Let's see what Stack Overflow gives us. Then yeah, we have this container. Inside that we have this decoration, and in decoration we can provide border radius, and colors. So this is something we want to use, and we want to wrap this country code picker inside a container. So we'll do that, and we'll provide decoration here. That will be box decoration, and here we'll provide background color. Let's use gray, and border radius is, let's keep it 50, so it looks circular. And we also want to provide color here. So yeah, it's looking fine. So the earlier thing we had is border, but we don't want border here, right? As per our Figma design, we have only background color. So yeah, that's what we'll currently use. We are not using exact background color that we have here, because that will be just waste of time, and we'll define all the theme colors, and at that point we'll update the colors wherever required. So for now we'll just use gray color provided by the system, which is almost similar. Okay, and yeah, so if we remove this border, and if you see this, then this looks fine, right? Now the next thing we have is, if you see, then In Figma, we have these two children, I mean two widgets in the horizontal alignment. So this must be a row that we already have. Inside row, this is content picker and this will be a text field. Okay, so let's do that. So inside row we have this container. Another one we'll use is for text input in Flutter. We need to use this text field widget. So let's use that text field, and in that we can provide hint. And another thing we need to do is we also need to have another container here, because this phone number also has this background, right? So what we want is that I think there's a way to give background to text field. Let's see if we can do that. Text field background Flutter. Okay, and in decoration we have input decoration, and in that we have fill color. So here we can provide fill color, that will be grade 200. And if you see here, then we don't even have text field, right? I'm not sure what's the issue. Let's try to run this. Maybe it's not running. There must be an error. Okay, updated layout information required for render opacity. I think that's not the main error. Okay, so what they are saying is like it cannot have unbounded width, right? Here we need to provide a width to this text field, because like this row does not have any fixed width. So what we want to do is our behavior is that first this contributor will take its space, and then rest should be assigned to this field. So we already know how we can do that. We can just wrap this in expanded, and that will give us the behavior, right? And now as you can see, it's working fine. Okay, so now we have provided this fill color, but we don't really see it, right? Okay, we had this fill true, and we can also provide border radius. Okay, I think it's in decoration, so it almost has all the parameters that we had in the container. So it's kind of looking similar now, but one thing you'll see is like there's no space between. So for that we can use size box widget. I think we are already familiar with that. So let's see how much padding should be there between these two. If I click here, then yeah, it's 8. So let's add 8 spacing here. Okay, and now if we look at the screen, then it's kind of looking similar, not exactly the same. One thing you'll see it's missing is that it does not have this plus 91, right? And to do that we have two options. One is that we either take another row, and inside that we have this this as a widget, and this as a widget, and this is a text field. Another way to do that is I think this text field allow us to provide a prefix or something. Yeah, we can have a prefix, and if we check that field, then it's basically it can be any widget, right? So we'll keep it text, okay, because that's what we want. we want to make it. Later we'll see, what we ideally want is that whatever is selected here, we display it here, right? But yeah, one thing I see is that here we are already showing this this country code, so I think it's fine if we don't show it here. But let's do it anyway, just to learn, how we can do that. Because what we'll need to do is we'll need to somehow keep this both in sync, right? When user change country here, then we'll also need to update this, so that will be a good learning. Let's do that. Okay, so yeah, another thing we'll need to do is we'll need to assign some padding here, especially the horizontal one. So we'll use this symmetric constructor, and now if we see, then it's kind of similar. And yeah, so now let's see how we can keep this both in sync. Okay, so we already get a callback when this is selected, right? And on that selection we want to update this. So for that we'll need to use, if you remember, then we'll need to use stateful widget, right? As this is a stateless widget, we cannot really have a state here. So we'll need to, there's if you go here and click on show context actions, then there's an easy way where Flutter provides you a shortcut for converting stateless widget to stateful widget. So let's do that. Now we have this stateful widget, and what we want is that country code should be a field, right? And so this is a state field, and what we want is when it gets selected, we are doing nothing here, right? But what we should do is we should assign that to country code. So we are basically saving that state into our widget tree as well, right? So this is available now, and now what we can do here is that instead of plus 91 that is fixed, we have country code. Okay, and inside that we have dial code, right? So if we run this now and open this, then you'll see that it still doesn't change, right? I'm not sure about reason. Let's see. Ideally it should change, but it's not working. So let's first debug that. Let's see if we are really getting any callback here. Country code, okay, and if I select a country, then you see we are basically getting a callback, right? So this is working. This country code set state is also working, but somehow this field is not being updated. Okay, I think it's not even an update issue, because it's always empty. Okay, it's rendered only after I click on that is a strange behavior. Yeah, but if we ignore that, then you'll see that it's currently in sync, right? Whatever I select, then it's shown here. Maybe that's how Flutter is optimizing the prefix of the text field, so that it becomes visible only when we click on that. But that is a different thing. If you see the state, then this is working fine, right? So anytime you want to save something, then saving that as a state is the best thing. Okay, so we have country code here, and we'll also need that, because when user clicks on this get OTP, then we'll need country code and we'll phone number, and at that point, yeah, after that we'll call that Firebase authentication. So it's almost done now. Let's remove this text field prefix here, because we already have that in the picker. So yeah, everything is fine. I can just type like you see, one thing that is missing is that I can type anything here, right? That's not the behavior we want. So there are some ways to do the like you can specify in text field like what kind of input you want, and here I'm specifying that I'm using this filtering text input formatter dot digits only, and you can have, if you click here, then you will see like you can have like many type of uh, formatters, and depending on your use case you will use different ones. So yeah, for now we'll use this digits only, and you can also do lots of things. You can also specify some regex here, so it accepts characters that are only basically part of that regex, or that yeah. So let's see now if you can type. So I'm trying to type word here, but I'm not able to. But if I enter digits, then yeah, it's working fine. Okay, so that is done. We have this UI ready, but one thing we'll see is that I'm not sure why I did that, but like this country code needs to be at the end, not between descriptions. So let me do that. Yeah, now it looks fine. Okay, we have some spacing here and there, but let's see what needs to be here. Then yeah, it's if you keep it in multiplication of 16, then this needs to be 16, and this can be 32, and yeah, this is very far from the text field, so we can make it something like 100, and yeah, so UI is done now. The next step is that okay, so there's one thing remaining. We are currently typing number here, right? But there's no way we don't have access to like what is inside this text field, right? So like this country code, we'll also need to save this this text. So there are two ways. I think we can provide one controller that is part of this text field, and this controller will have a field that we can use to get what is inside the text field anytime. Another thing you can do is like this text field has one callback called on change, and inside that also you'll get if I type here, then you see yeah, latest value. So yeah, for now we will go with this one where we are storing the phone number. Okay, and when user types, then we'll update that. Very simple thing. But yeah, we have now both phone and this country code as our state. So now we can start implementing Firebase phone authentication. Okay, so we are done with collecting both phone number and country code, and so the next step for us would be like how we can use Firebase authentication to send an OTP and how we can verify that. So let's start with that process. We'll need to create one Firebase project for that. If you go to your Firebase console, and you'll have option of creating a new project. I'm creating here Khelo clone. Select Canopus as a parent. We don't need Google Analytics at this point, so we'll just keep it disabled, and I'll click on create project. and here's the Figma. Okay. So yeah, Firebase authentication is kind of very straightforward. The hardest part is to configure that in the project. So I'll highlight a few basic things that is needed. One thing to keep in mind is that even though we'll integrate Firebase phone authentication here, we'll not be able to get OTP with any phone number because that is a paid service. So but there's one thing we can do. We can add our number as a test phone number, and then we can assign a static OTP there that we can use for verification. So that's what we'll do. First of all, go to authentication, and inside that, click on Get Started. And click on phone, enable, and yeah, I'll add my one dummy number here. Let's call it all 9. Okay. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Yeah, and let's keep all 1 as OTP, and yeah, that's it. If I enable it now, then it should work fine. Okay, and I think we added one page number. Yeah, so here we have the page number and everything. It should be fine. So now let's see what will be the process. So we have created a Firebase project, right? But that is not in any way connected to our app, right? So there are some official Firebase documentation that we can follow to integrate that in our app. So let's see Firebase authentication Flutter. Yeah, that's what we can search, and this is the package that we'll need to add. So just go to installing and copy this and add it in pubspec.yaml file here, and click on pubget. Yeah, so we are done with the dependencies, and now if we follow the documentation, like how we'll need to do that, because we have integrated the library, right? But somehow we'll need to connect this Firebase project and our app. So that involves a few steps that will look a bit complicated to you for if you are doing it first time, but yeah, it's very simple. So if you go here, then first they are saying like connect your app to Firebase. So this is the thing I'm talking about. Let's click on that, and let's follow the process. So first of all, I will need a Firebase CLI tool. I have already installed that, but if you haven't, then just go ahead and install that. It's very simple process. There are some easier ways depending on your on Mac or Windows. Yeah, you can install it with npm, or you can, if you are on Mac OS or Linux, you have this automatic install script that you can just run, and yeah, it will do everything. So yeah, pretty easy thing to do. And yeah, once that is done, then this is the command that you will need to execute. I'm already logged in Firebase, so you can open terminal here, or you can create a new terminal instance, and in that just execute this command Firebase login, and yeah, it will ask you for your credential and you'll be able to log in. But I would advise you to just use this inbuilt terminal in the Android Studio. as it will be default in the by default it will be in the directory that you are working in. So yeah, we have Khelo clone here. I'll execute this Firebase login, and it will say already logged in as jimmy@canopus.com. So yeah, another thing we want to do is we'll need to execute this command that activates the Flutter Fire CLI. So Flutter Fire CLI is a tool that will do execute all this. I mean, it will connect the our app and Firebase console. So yeah, we have executed that, and now we'll be able to execute Flutter Fire CLI command. So yeah, the first command we want to execute is this Flutter Fire configure. So yeah, let's do that, and it will ask you to select a project which you want to link with your app, and here we have this Khelo clone, so I'll choose that. In that, by default we have selected Android and iOS, but you can link other platforms as well. We want only these two, so we'll go ahead, and we want to use this configuration com.example. Which application ID do you want to use for this configuration? So here we'll need to provide our Android app ID, and you can get it from app source and build.gradle file. Just copy this namespace, and that's the bundle ID of our Android app. So yeah, we'll add that, and then it will execute a few things. We have received one error, failed to create see Firebase debug log. Firebase Android app not registered, so it's not able to register. Let's try again. We have two Khelo clones, so we'll have to make sure we are connecting with the right one. So if I go to Firebase project here and go to project settings, then this is the one that we want to connect with, and yeah, it's this one. Maybe we okay, so there's another mistake I made. Let's try again. I added that Firebase project ID as a bundle ID of Android, but that's not what we want. So I have selected the app here, Khelo clone, and I selected platforms, and after that I'll need to enter here the bundle ID. Again, for some reason it's not copying this thing. Let me try again. Yeah, you will not face this difficulty, as you will not have so many projects that I have, but yeah, so we are done here. Now it will link our app and Firebase. So it will also add a few additional files here, like Firebase options, I guess, that we can check in Git. Okay, so yeah, it's successful now. And if I go to our if I go to our Firebase console and go to project settings and I refresh, then you will see that it has added Android and iOS here, our applications. So yeah, we can go ahead with that. We are done with the first step, that is Flutter Fire configuration. And if we go here, then we have a few other things to do as well. We need to add this Flutter Firebase core dependency, and let's do that. Firebase core dependency, I'll go to installing, and I'll copy this, So I think Firebase code is like one of the default dependency that we'll need to add if we use any Firebase service, be it authentication or um, analytics or anything. So yeah, let me add that here, and let's see what we have next. Um, I think after that, what they say is that we'll need to do this import, but that will be done automatically. First, let's see what we need to add in our lib/main.dart file, and here we need to add these two things before we call run app. So let's do that. I'll go to my main.dart file, and we have only this line, and we'll add these two. You'll see that we are getting one error here where we have this await keyword. That is because await can be used only if the function is async, and yeah, let's add that, and we'll also import this required dependencies here, and yeah, if we try to run our app here, then let's see if we face an issue. I don't think we have anything else left. Yeah, we don't have anything, I guess, after that. So yeah, now let's see what's the error we are getting. Okay, so the error is that specs specifying Firebase auth dependency were found, but they required higher minimum deployment target, right? So what they are saying is we have our 12.0 target, and they would like to have 13. That for that we'll have to open our iOS project. So open this directory in Finder. So we have our project here. Go to iOS, and yeah, open this workspace file, XC workspace file. So there are two similar files here, but this is project file and this is workspace file. Workspace file includes project as well as its dependencies as well. So that's the one we are going to use. And if you go here, then go to project, select the target, and here we have like minimal deployments. Here go and change that to 13 in all three profiles: debug, profile, and release. So yeah, let's do that. It's 13 now, and if we try to run this now, then let's see if we face any issue. Okay, we are still facing that issue. Maybe, I don't know, this is not saved. Yeah, for some reason it's not saved. Okay, pod install was successful. Let's see if we have any other steps that we need to follow. So we are done with Firebase general integration, but we have some steps that we need to execute that are like very specific to Firebase auth. So for that, if we see here, then you will see that go to phone number authentication, and you will see here that we have done this, right? We have already added this no, we haven't added this SHA key because we are not using Android. So if you are using Android, then now our path will differ. The configuration I did in Xcode, you will not need to do that. Instead, yeah, I think you'll have to skip that step, and instead you will have to do this, and that is this SHA1 key. You'll have to generate that here. You'll have to you'll have some other docs how you can generate that, and then you'll need to add that in your app here. So what happens is, like, your Firebase project will be restricted to only a few SHA keys that you add, and then this Firebase project will be usable only if your app is signed with that signature. So that will prevent some abuse, like, some other can take your Firebase JSON file and they can try to connect with your Firebase project. So yeah, this is very important step, and Firebase will not even allow using authentication and few other things if you don't add your keys, security keys here. So let's do that. Actually, you'll have to do that on iOS. It's not required. Instead of that, we have a few other things that we need to do. In Xcode, we'll have to enable this push notification, and we'll have to get one key from the Apple Developer Console, and then we'll need to add it here in the cloud messaging, and here. But yeah, there are already so many docs available for that. So just do that. We'll not cover that in very depth here, because the documentation can keep changing, and the latest source is always on the site. So basically follow all the steps, and once you add your keys here, and you'll also need to enable some background modes in your iOS project that you can do with here opening that project, and we'll stop signing this app because we don't have a real account now. But click on capability here, and you can click on background modes, and here you'll be able to select a few, like remote notification, background processing, or like whatever is required. So we just need remote notifications here. So I did that, and okay, and to view in-depth explanation of this step, view the Firebase iOS phone auth. So if basically, even if you are integrating this Flutter Firebase auth in your project, you're basically you'll have to almost follow those steps twice, one for Android and one for iOS. Most of the steps are like kind of native. Unfortunately, not all the things you can do configure in Flutter only yet. So you will have to open this Xcode files, and if you are on Android, you will have to do a bit of configuration in your build.tdl file. You will have to take a few things here and there. So basically follow the guide, and do all the things that is required. And if you see this guide, then we already enabled this phone number. We'll see what we need to do for iOS here. And here, if you see, then somehow our Firebase project would like to verify that the app that is connecting with the Firebase project is a legitimate app. And for that, in Android, we have already done that using that SHA keys, right? We had to add it here. But on iOS, there are two ways. One is like you can add that push notification certificate here. So Firebase will send one push notification to that device when you try to verify code, but that will not be visible. It will be totally silent process. That's one way it will verify that. And if you don't want to do that, then there's also one like reCAPTCHA verification that will show some CAPTCHA that you need to verify. Most of the time that will also be verified automatically, and I think Firebase also use this as a backup verification as well. If for some reason this silent APN notification fails, like it can fail for a few reasons, like if you are using the simulator, then it can fail. So yeah, in that case also it will by default to this reCAPTCHA verification. And for that we have one additional step that we need to do. We'll need to open our URLs, and we'll need to add this encoded URL ID there. The reason is that I think Firebase, when this reCAPTCHA verification happens, it's in a different view. That is, then that view needs to communicate with our app, and for that it would like to invoke, I guess, one URL, and here we add that schema. So yeah, let's do that as well. It's very easy thing. Go to info. You can add item 0 document role URL schemes and edit here, or you have other option as well. You can go to this runner, and here go to info and go to URL types, and you can just add your encoded ID here. I would like to do mine as well, so let's see what I have. So here's the ID, and I'll add it here. Okay. So in iOS, this is a bit off topic, but I would like to explain. In iOS, this plist file is kind of the base of the project. So there are two ways you can edit that file. You can open that as a this text editor where you can add or remove any. It's basically key value pair kind of thing, where you say my bundle name is this, my project name is this, and this is my path of executable, and yeah. Or you can try to do that with graphics, and yeah, in that case you can go to this project target and go to info.playlist info tab, and yeah, here you can configure all the things. So super easy. Yeah, once you do that, if you are doing it first time, then it will look a bit tricky, but yeah, as you do it regularly with your projects, it will be it will become easy. So now if we quit this project and we try to run it, let's see what happens. So now we are done with configuration, but we haven't added any code that will send the OTP, right? So for that we have this method Firebase auth instance dot verify phone number that we'll use here. We'll need to provide our phone number, okay, and then that phone number includes the country code, and then we have 4 callbacks here. One is verification completed, and that is I think that is invoked if by default Firebase can verify that phone number without sending OTP. That can happen for a few reasons, like if Firebase service or Google service is already set up on this phone, and it knows that that service is set up with this number only, right? So if that is done and you enter this number here, then Firebase knows that this is the phone with that number, and for that they don't need to send OTP. So you'll directly get a callback here, verification completed. But in my experience, I haven't seen this happening yet. But you need to handle your code here. So if you get authenticated directly, then yeah, you can handle that. Then we have this verification failed. That will happen if for some reason Firebase is not able to send OTP. And then we have code sent. This is the green path, I mean the positive path. By default, if OTP is sent, then this callback will be invoked, and in that we'll get this verification ID, and we'll get this resend token. And The last one is code auto retrieval timeout. Yeah, this will also be invoked if it's timeout. I don't know exact detail here, but yeah, it's basically one of the error case, I guess. I'm not sure. Let's see there. Dog handle a timeout of when automatic SMS code handling fails. Um, Let's see what they say. On Android devices which support automatic SMS code resolution, this handler will be called if the device has not automatically resolved an SMS message within a certain time frame. Once the time frame has passed, the device will no longer attempt to resolve any incoming messages by default. Okay, so in Android, what happens is like Firebase allows us to if it can, then it will try to read the SMS content itself and will try to resolve OTP. So what happens is like if for some reason they are not able to do that, then they will let us know here, and in that case, we'll need to show our this second view here, and yeah, otherwise we'll directly get this verified callback, and we'll be able to assume that authentication is done. So yeah, these two are kind of related. If code auto retrieval timeout, then treat that almost the same as this one. In both cases, we'll need to show our verification screen, and user will enter OTP, and then we'll need to again invoke another API for verifying the OTP. So yeah, let's go ahead with that. If we go to phone authentication Flutter, then I'll copy this, and yeah, we'll need to invoke that in this get OTP callback. So let's do that. We have our CTA here, and yeah, we are doing nothing here. So yeah, here actually this copilot is very correct here. It's suggesting that if country code is not selected or phone number is null, then basically return and don't send or invoke this thing. So yeah, I have added that, but here's the main logic. We'll do this Firebase auth verify phone number, and here instead of this static phone number, guess what we'll need to pass? Our country code and dial phone number. That's it. And for now, let's just print this verification completed, and here we'll print that verification failed, and we'll also log error here. Okay, and here we'll log that code is sent, and here we'll log that code auto retrieval timeout. So yeah, that's it. And now let's run app and see what happens. I'll select a country, that is India, and then here we had 10 times 9, so 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. And yeah, let's see what happens. Like Firebase open this reCAPTCHA thing, so that is correct. And then yeah, we got this callback code sent, and we got this verification ID. So this verification ID is very important. When Firebase send OTP, it gives us this verification ID, and then what we'll need to do is when we get OTP from user, we'll need to pass both verification ID that we got and also the OTP to Firebase, so it will know for which verification we are trying to provide this OTP. Basically to keep the link. So for somehow we'll need to pass this verification ID to that second screen. So yeah, let's do that. let's see how we can pass parameters with we know how we can go to other screen, right? We can just this context dot go, or we can call this context dot push, and here we can provide the path, right? Like slash auth OTP, and that's it. But somehow we'll need to pass this verification ID to that screen as well, right? And that we can do with something called query parameters. If you go to go router and query parameters Flutter, then you'll see. But query parameter is a common method in all the URL related things. So let's see what query parameter is and what path is. Many people are confused between these two. So you see here we have this stackoverflow.com, right? This is domain, like the main domain of the website. This is schema, right? It's HTTPS, and that is a secure connection. Sometimes it can be HTTP as well, and then it will give you that red warning. So that is schema. Then we have domain, and then these are all the path segments, right? Slash slash slash. Notice that it doesn't involve question mark, right? So anything that starts after question mark, these are all query parameters, right? Like if I try to search something in Google, then you'll see that domain is here, and then we have these paths, that is search. So basically it's google.com/search, and after that we have this question mark. So here we have all the query parameters. You can have multiple parameters, like we have q is equal to search, so it's saying query is equal to search, and OQ is equal to search, and all the other parameters, right? So we'll need to pass our thing as query parameter here. That's very easy thing to do here. And yeah, Copilot suggests that this is our query parameter name, and this will be the value of the query parameter, right? That's it. Now we have passed query parameter here, but somehow when we get that here, we'll need to read that, and we'll need to pass that to this auth OTP screen, right? So for that, first thing we'll do is we'll add one argument here, that is string, and we'll call it verification ID. Okay, and here we have added this what's the maybe this is the error, and okay, so we have added this verification ID. So what we are saying is, like, this is a widget, right? So any widget can add whatever constructor parameter it wants. Even though it's a screen, it's basically a widget. In the beginning I explained that in Flutter almost everything you see is widget, be it the navigation router or the screen or a small icon or anything. So in this widget we are adding this verification ID as a parameter. So what we are saying is, like, if you want to create instance of this screen or this widget, then you'll have to pass verification ID, right? Now if we go up, then we are getting an error here. That is because we haven't passed that parameter yet, right? So now let's do that, and for that we'll first convert this to block body. So in Flutter you can create this callback two ways. This is kind of a shortcut way, right? And this is and here is, you see, like, this is a method with these two parameter, and here you don't need to add return or anything like that, right? And this is a normal callback, or we'll call it closer, and here you see these are parameters, and here we can add like multiple things, and then at the end we'll need to return this auth OTP screen, and we'll have to add this verification ID here, and that query parameter is available in state.url.query parameters, and here you'll have to pass verification ID. And here we will say, if you cannot find that, then basically give an error. Let's see if this is working. So I'll I have run this, and yeah, now let's see if this navigation with this verification ID is working. So what we'll do is we'll have to let's add, instead of auth OTP screen, let's print verification ID here, so we'll know, right, that this new screen has received the verification ID from the previous screen. So if I run this, then I'll select country code here, that is 91, and here sorry, yeah, let me see if it was 10, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. It will do recaptcha thing, and hopefully we'll see that verification ID here, right? And you'll see if I move this in safe area, it's going in the status bar, so it's not shown properly, but yeah, you'll see we have received that ID here, and that means like we are completely done with the sending part here. Okay, now we have only this verification part remaining. Let's see what we can do. We'll copy UI here. So we have these three things, all looks almost similar, right? And then we have this button. So I'll try to copy our UI from the previous screen here, and then we'll just edit the parts that are required. So I have added everything here. I'll remove this Firebase verify font, like what happens, in on press kind of thing, and instead of just get OTP, we'll rename it to verify OTP. Okay, and that is our CTA done. And in body, we have this enter phone number. We'll make it a verification code. Okay, that is done. And then we have this we have sent a verification code to your phone, and then we are printing phone here. Okay, so this is something I didn't expect, but yeah, we have that phone number here. So any idea what we'll need to do? Yeah, if you have thought about that, then you are correct. Somehow with this verification ID, we'll also need to pass phone from the previous screen here, right? Because we cannot guess it here ourselves, right? Very simple thing. Let's do that actually. Here what I'll do is I'll add this body method, and for now it's static. Let's see how it looks, and then we don't need country code here, right? We only want text field. So here we'll call it OTP field method, and we'll remove everything else. We'll keep only the text field. Okay, and that means we'll have to remove quite a few things. Okay, and in on change we'll see like how we'll save that OTP, but yeah, as a hint, we have this 0. Okay, and yeah, we'll call this OTP field here, and if you see the UI, then we are getting one error here. That is because we have this phone field here. Let's actually pass that. We'll use the same thing. Query parameter will get phone, and if not, then we'll pass empty string. And now we'll have to verify. We'll have to pass phone from here. So what we'll do is first we'll combine this thing, and instead of doing it manual here, then we'll just pass that variable here. So we are just reusing that, and after verification ID we'll also pass phone here. Okay, very easy thing to do. And now if we run there, then let's see what happens. So I'll add 9 1 and 10 times 9. Okay, looks fine, and you'll see that that's not correct phone number, right? That is because we haven't shown, we have the static. Instead of that, what we'll need to do is we'll need to use this phone variable, and yeah, you will see, and that is the correct one here. And I think that's everything we have related to verification code. Another thing you'll see is like we don't have back arrow here, right? That is because we haven't provided app bar, and let's do that. Okay, and if we add app bar, then yeah, you'll see we have back arrow here. Everything looks fine. Now what we'll need to do is on this verify OTP, first when user is typing this, right, at that point we'll have to save that OTP, and we'll save it here in Auth OTP screen. So for that we have the stateless widget, right? Here's where it makes difference, because we have the stateless, we cannot save what is being changed, right? So we'll need to make this stateful widget now. Actually, as we don't want to refresh screen content ourselves, it's also possible to do with stateless widget, because I can just take one field as string OTP, and I can make it empty, and here what I can do is in on change I can provide OTP here, right? But as you will see, this works because we are not showing updated value of this OTP anywhere else, right? If you remember our Flutter demo app, in that we had that floating action button. When you tapped on that, we updated the number of times it was pressed, right? So we, on some input, we were updating something else that was on the screen, and that requires that widget to be stateful widget. Here, when this changes, we are not updating any other part of the area, right? This is updated by default, updated by Flutter, right? So we are not using that OTP anywhere else, right? So that's why it worked. But here, suppose what I do is after phone number I use that OTP field. Okay, now if you are new to Flutter, you'll expect that, right? When I'm assigning new value of OTP here, and I'm showing it here in field, so it should show it, right? If I type something here, then it should show it here, but that will not happen because this is a stateless widget, right? So what happened is, like, Flutter has cached everything. It will not even look that if this value of this OTP is changed or not. So yeah, this is not something we can do here. If we wanted to do it, then we'll need to use stateful widget. But yeah, we can obviously save that value in a variable. So now what happens is, like, when user clicks on this CTA, that is this on press, we'll need to verify that OTP and the verification ID. Okay, and for that, let's see what the docs say. This Copilot already suggested that, right? Okay, so here's the code sent callback, and here you will see that we'll need to get this phone auth provided or credential. Here we'll need to pass both things, and we'll have credential. This phone auth credential means that we are successful with the Firebase authentication. So yeah, let's do that. We added this, and then we'll call this sign in with credential, and we'll pass that, and we are done with login, right? So the same thing you see here. and nothing fancy. But in Flutter, you don't need to provide your type here in the beginning. You can just call it final, and yeah, two parts here. Here we are getting credential by this constructor. We are passing verification ID that we got from previous screen, and we are getting OTP that user entered. And then here what we do is we call sign in with credential method, pass those credential, and if it's successful, then let's see if it returns anything. It actually returns these user credentials, right? So I can print that, okay, and we'll print that user's UID here, and then we'll not redirect user to actually we can redirect user to, have we created home screen? No. So let's do that. A very simple stateless widget, we call it home screen, and in that we have nothing but scaffold, right, with simple F bar, and in body we'll have text that says nothing but home, right? And we'll need to configure this in Gorouter, so let's do that. Gorout, and here in path we'll provide /home, and here in builder we are just providing home screen, and we are done. Okay, you can also, I think, feed this in one line. Yeah, very simple thing. And we have basically done mapping of home route, and so on successful login we would like this user to go to home screen. Okay, see here that we are using go instead of push, because when authentication is successful we don't want to keep all the previous screens in the stack, where if user swipes back or click on back button in Android, we don't want to keep these authentication screens and other onboarding screens in the stack, because that will be the default screen if user is logged in, right? So for that's why we use go and not push. So you will see that on home screen will not have this error, right, because that will be the root screen. And yeah, here I think we have everything that we wanted to add. So if I add all the OTP, and I think Auth was successful, but somehow user, like, I think it was not able to find the home route. Maybe we didn't rerun the app. So now I'll do that. Okay, and this is done. Recaptcha is running, and you'll see that we have this OTP screen. I enter all one and click on verify OTP, and yeah, you will see it's successful and user is on home screen, and there's no back arrow because we use context.go instead of context.push. So there's nothing in the backstack here, and this will be the root screen, and this will be the behavior you will want in almost all the use cases. And now let's see on our Firebase console if the user is created or not. So go to authentication, and you will see that this user is created, right? And this ID that we have printed here, user.uid, is the same UID. That means that Firebase authentication, phone authentication is successful. So yeah, that's everything for today. So to recap what we learned today, we started with implementing the screen, a very simple thing. We added the screen, and then we added this country picker dependency that was an external dependency. Then we learned how we can store this field value in the state. We did that, and we also integrated Gorouter, and we integrated these three screens and also the home screen, so we can redirect between the screens. And we also learned how we can create Firebase project, how we can link that Firebase project with our app in iOS. And yeah, you can follow the steps in Android. It's even more easier, like you just need to add that SSH key and SHA key, and you'll be done. And we also learned what kind of changes we'll need to make in this iOS project to integrate the authentication, phone authentication. And after that, we verified the OTP with the Firebase methods, auth methods that they provide. And yeah, that's it for today. Hope you had something to learn. In next tutorial, we'll see, like we have implemented these things, but they are super ugly, right? Everything is here, like there are lots of warnings, and we are not even following any structure, right? You might have heard of MVVM and all those things, like we need to use like which architecture you are using, like those things. So we'll explore two things. One is MVVM architecture, and we'll also see how we can use Riverpod, right? So I think, yeah, those two things are on my mind. And depending on other things, we might, if we have time, then we'll also see like how we can configure the styles so that they are reusable. Currently we are just copy pasting things, and we haven't like even set the font, so it looks a bit different than the Figma design. So if we have time, but then we'll see that as well. But that's something you can easily search on Google and do it. But the main part is like how we'll set up themes and styles, so we make our app ready for the light mode and dark mode. So you see here, like designer has only provided light screenshots, but they have provided sample as a dark, and according to that we'll need to design all the dark screens. So we'll also learn how we can implement dark mode. I'll see if I can fit that into next tutorial. So yeah, that's it. Bye.